Hey guys, and welcome to Follower Friday. On Fridays, I'm going to be answering questions from my followers. Now, this week I actually put up in my story, ask me a question that's health and fitness related. So look out for those to try to get your question answered. Question I got from Ali Casella, and she asked, is weight training or cardiovascular training better for fat loss? Simply stated, low intensity steady state cardio is primarily going to use fat as its energy source for basically movement production. Whereas weight training is going to use various sources of energy production like the ATP-CP or the glycolytic system, depending on how hard you're pushing. So I would say it also depends on the type of weight training you're doing and the type of cardiovascular. But for this question, I'm going to assume it's low intensity steady state, which is your jogging, and your traditional resistance training, which is anywhere from 8 to 12 repetitions, couple sets, and a couple different exercises. Now, that's not to say that you can't achieve fat loss through weight training, and I would say you absolutely can. And generally with fat loss, you also want to try to increase muscle mass. Now, that's where resistance training absolutely has a one-up on cardiovascular exercise. It's really hard to be toned or keep muscle mass on while you're just doing cardio. So I would say doing a little bit of cardio, a little bit of resistance training, that's going to be optimal for fat loss and muscle gain. Question was from Marina, and she said, hey, I just recently got surgery. I've got very little to no appetite. I can't really do any activity. Am I going to lose more muscle than I am fat? So the answer pretty clearly, in my opinion anyways, is no. I don't think you're going to lose more muscle than you are fat. Now, are you going to lose muscle? Sure. Are you going to lose a little bit of body weight? Sure. Now, I would say it's really dependent on how lean you are. Now, if you're a very lean individual, you have very low body fat and you're mainly muscle mass, then I could say maybe you're actually going to lose, a decent portion of your muscle mass to fat ratio. But in most people's cases, I would say the answer is no. Now, my recommendations for limiting fat loss would be try to keep the protein high around 0.7 grams per pound of body weight. I know you can't resistance train, so that's a little unfortunate. The other thing is trying to maintain your calories. I know you said you have low appetite, so these things might be difficult. So the answer in short is you're probably going to lose some muscle mass. Is it going to be more than the amount of fat you lose? I would say probably not. So Devin Radford asked a great question, and it is pretty in-depth, so put your seatbelts on and hunker in. The question asks, what's my opinion on supplementation for increased muscular sympatholysis, so blood flow to the muscle? Now, just to go over real briefly, what is sympatholysis? Sympatholysis is really the direction that blood wants to flow to areas. So for instance, if I just ate and I'm sedentary, we're going to have an increased blood flow to the organs, stomach, so on and so forth, and a little less to the limbs. Now, if I'm exercising, specifically the body part that's being recruited the most is going to require more blood. Now, really what Devin's question is saying is, what supplement can I take to increase vasodilation to that local group and help increase sympatholysis? I'm going to clearly state that this is not my area of expertise, and that I had to do a lot of digging, and a lot of this information that I've gathered from a research review article called Mass. And Eric Trexler is pretty prominent in this area, and most of his research from his PhD is in the area of blood flow regulation, specifically nitric oxide. So he kind of states the literature is a little all over the place right now. What supplements are there and what can help improve NO is citrulline malate, L-citrulline, and nitrate. But why do we want to take these supplements? Well, right now it seems a little wishy-washy on as to does the increase in blood flow matter, or is it something else? Is there something else mechanistically that's causing these increases in repeatability of force production or strength? And right now it's thought primarily the increase in force production and strength that is a result of taking these supplements isn't necessarily from the increase in blood flow. Now, it's hard to necessarily tease that out right now, and that's why there needs to be a bigger body of literature on it. But right now, the leading thought is that there's an increase in calcium and an increase in calcium sensitivity at the muscular level. So basically the muscle is able to bind the cross bridges more effectively and with the calcium, and that the calcium is more sensitive to those cross bridges. So that means that you can basically produce that force a little bit more effectively. So that is the best answer I can give right now. Can you increase sympatholysis through those supplements? Yeah, I would say that the research seems to show that as of right now. Now, if you're hypertensive, there's some literature that shows that if you increase nitrate intake, that you can actually lower blood pressure. That is a pretty long response to a relatively short question, but there's a lot of detail in it, and it seems to be inconclusive still at this time period, and there needs to be a bigger body of literature. So there you go. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and like.